Before Conor McGregor ever set foot in the UFC, he was collecting €188 a week in welfare and borrowing money just to make rent in Dublin. 4 years after his debut, a single fight against Floyd Mayweather generated over $600 million, netting McGregor close to $100 million in one night. No fighter has ever turned one bout into a global business empire the way he did. But the real question is not how he got that payday. It is the series of all-or-nothing gambles that started on the streets of Crumlin. Crumlin, on Dublin's south side, was a place where ambition rarely made it past the front door. The McGregor family lived in a small house on a street lined with battered cars and half-worn shop fronts. Tony McGregor, Conor's father, spent long nights driving a taxi, bringing home just enough to keep the lights on. The Central Statistics Office recorded Crumlin's unemployment rate among the highest in the city through the early 2000s, and most families, like the McGregors, scraped by on less than the city's median income. For Conor, restlessness was a daily companion. School offered little promise, and the streets outside were thick with tension. Fights broke out after class, sometimes over nothing at all, and Conor found himself drawn in, fists clenched, looking for a release. He later recalled, "I'd be in the alley, fighting 3 times a week. It was the only way I knew to prove myself." Police logs from the Dublin Evening Herald list repeated public order incidents on Crumlin Main Street, naming a young male later identified as Conor McGregor. That raw aggression didn't go unnoticed. Eddie O'Shea, a veteran at the Dean Byrne Crumlin Boxing Club, remembered the day a teenage Conor walked in, still buzzing from a street brawl. The club was a battered room above a chip shop, its walls lined with faded posters and heavy bags patched with duct tape. For kids like Conor, it was a sanctuary from the grind outside. Trainers at the club saw promise in the way he moved, quick on his feet, never backing down, always looking for an angle. He took his first swings in borrowed gloves, sparring with older boys who tried and failed to rattle him. At home, money was always tight. Tony's taxi brought in about €19,800 a year, below the local average. Conor's mother, Margaret, managed the household, stretching every euro. The family's fortunes mirrored the neighborhood, uncertain, sometimes bleak, but never without a stubborn streak of hope. The boxing gym became more than a refuge. It was the first place where Conor's volatility was channeled into something structured. He trained after school, sometimes skipping meals to squeeze in extra rounds. Coaches pushed him hard, teaching him to harness his anger, to turn chaos into calculated strikes. The discipline of the ring offered a way out, a path that didn't involve drifting into the same dead-end jobs that waited for most kids in Crumlin. By his mid-teens, Conor's reputation had grown. He wasn't just another street brawler, he was a prospect, but the pressure outside never let up. Every day, he walked a line between the world he knew and the one he imagined for himself. The first taste of organized sport had given him direction, but the hunger for something bigger was just beginning to take hold. Conor McGregor's decision to leave his plumbing apprenticeship wasn't just a career change. It was a leap into the unknown. In February 2013, his name was quietly removed from the Irish apprenticeship register, ending a trade that paid about €750 a month. That same week, he walked through the doors of Straight Blast Gym in Phibsborough, Dublin, and told John Kavanagh he was ready to train twice a day, every day, for as long as it took. Kavanagh, already a respected coach, had seen plenty of hopefuls come and go. But he later recalled, he handed in his apprenticeship papers the same day he walked in. He said he'd be a world champion. Training at Straight Blast Gym was not glamorous. The gym was unheated, the mats were worn, and the air always carried the sharp tang of sweat and disinfectant. McGregor arrived early, stayed late, and pushed through 2 training sessions a day. There was no paycheck waiting at the end of each week. Instead, he relied on the Irish state's job seekers allowance, €188 a week, just enough to cover groceries and bus fare. The Department of Social Protection's records from 2013 confirm that this was the standard rate for a single adult under 30. It was a lifeline, but only just. Bills did not stop coming. Rent was due every month, and there were nights when the fridge was empty. Dee Devlin, Conor's partner, took on extra shifts and leaned on her own family for help. In March 2013, her father lent them €500 to keep a roof over their heads. Dee later described those months as a blur of worry and hope, saying, "My parents gave us a few €100 to pay the rent for the first month because we couldn't afford anything. That borrowed money was just enough to buy time." McGregor's days fell into a strict rhythm. Wake up, train, rest, train again. The gym became his world. Kavanaugh saw the hunger in him, the way he absorbed every lesson and demanded more. But the pressure was relentless. Without the safety net of a steady job, every injury, every setback, threatened to end the dream before it started. Friends questioned his choices. Family worried he was chasing shadows. Yet the risk was total. McGregor had burned his bridges with the trades. There was no fallback plan. Dee Devlin's support was constant. She managed the household, stretched every euro, and stood by him through the leanest stretches. Kavanaugh, too, invested his time and reputation, giving McGregor the platform and guidance he needed. Together, the three of them, fighter, coach, and partner, formed a triangle of ambition and trust. The odds were steep. In 2013, the median disposable income in Ireland was more than 3 times what McGregor lived on. Most young fighters who tried to make it full-time ended up back in day jobs or left the sport altogether. But McGregor's gamble was absolute. If he did not break through as a professional, there was nothing waiting for him except the long shadow of unemployment. Every round in the gym, every borrowed euro, was a bet that his raw belief would one day pay off. That urgency set the stage for everything that followed. April 6, 2013. The O2 in Dublin buzzed with anticipation, but few outside Ireland had heard the name Conor McGregor. That changed in just 67 seconds. Marcus Brimage, a seasoned American featherweight, stepped into the cage as the favorite. McGregor, fighting on the undercard for a standard $12,000 show purse and a matching win bonus, walked out with a swagger that belied the stakes. He wore a green mouthguard and a grin, bouncing on his toes as the referee signaled the start. Brimage rushed forward, looking to overwhelm the newcomer. McGregor slipped the first wild punch, countered with a precise left uppercut, and followed with a flurry that sent Brimage stumbling sideways. The crowd roared as McGregor pressed, landing shot after shot. Brimage collapsed to the canvas. The referee waved it off, and the Irishman leaped the cage, arms outstretched, roaring to the crowd. The official time was 67 seconds. Knockout. The fastest finish on the card, and a statement heard across the MMA world. In the days that followed, headlines in the Irish Independent and MMA media declared the arrival of a new force. UFC President Dana White, cageside that night, called it one of the most impressive debuts I have seen. McGregor's post-fight interview lit up social media. He thanked his coach, his partner Dee, and the Irish welfare system for keeping him afloat. Then he promised, "We're not here to take part, we're here to take over." That single performance did more than secure a win bonus. It triggered a 6-fight UFC contract with terms that would escalate if he kept winning. The UFC's matchmakers took notice. Sponsors started calling. Irish sports radio replayed the knockout on a loop. For a fighter who had borrowed rent money just weeks earlier, the Brimage fight was a lifeline and a launch pad. The win didn't just validate the gamble, it created leverage. McGregor's name trended worldwide, and ticket sales for future events spiked in Dublin and London. The 67-second knockout became a calling card. It was replayed in highlight reels, dissected in gym sessions, and shared millions of times online. More than just a win, it was proof that McGregor's belief wasn't empty talk. The UFC, always hungry for stars with crossover appeal, had found a showman who could deliver in the cage and on the microphone. McGregor's ascent was no longer a question of if, but how high and how fast. The road to title contention started with a single left hand, thrown with the weight of every risk he had taken just to stand in that cage. December 12th, 2015. The MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas was electric, packed with fans and media from every corner of the world. Conor McGregor stepped into the octagon to face Jose Aldo, the undisputed featherweight champion who hadn't lost in over a decade. Aldo's reign stretched across 18 fights and 7 title defenses, a legacy built on precision and composure. But in 13 seconds, McGregor shattered it. The opening bell barely faded when McGregor landed a left hand that sent Aldo crashing to the canvas. The referee waved it off. The official record read, knockout, 13 seconds. Fastest finish in UFC title fight history. The shock rippled far beyond the cage. McGregor's purse for the night, $500,000 to show, and another $500,000 as a win bonus, was a fraction of what his name would soon command. But the real reward was leverage. Overnight, McGregor became a sensation. Social media exploded with GIFs of the knockout, and sports headlines across continents declared a new king. The UFC's pay-per-view numbers spiked, and ticket sales for future McGregor cards soared. He was no longer just a contender from Dublin. He was the man who dethroned a legend in less time than it takes to tie a shoe. That victory set the stage for something no UFC fighter had ever done. On November 12, 2016, inside Madison Square Garden, McGregor faced Eddie Alvarez for the lightweight title. The event was historic. UFC 205 was the promotion's debut at the Garden, and the hype was at fever pitch. McGregor, already the featherweight champion, was aiming to become the first simultaneous two-division title holder in UFC history. The stakes were clear. Win, and his claim to greatness would be undeniable. The fight itself was a showcase. McGregor dropped Alvarez 3 times in the first round, each left hand drawing gasps from the crowd. By the second, Alvarez was overwhelmed. A 4-punch combination ended it, knockout, 5 minutes into the fight. McGregor stood in the center of the octagon, 2 championship belts draped over his shoulders, grinning as he demanded a second belt from UFC President Dana White. The image became iconic, splashed across newspapers and sports websites worldwide. The disclosed purse for the night, another $500,000 to show, and a $500,000 win bonus, didn't reflect the true scale of McGregor's earning power. The event broke the UFC's US gate record, pulling in $17.7 million at the box office, and generating over 4 million pay-per-view buys, according to Forbes. Social media impressions topped 14 billion, a number usually reserved for global sporting events, like the World Cup. Sponsors lined up, and McGregor's post-fight interview, equal parts bravado and business, was clipped and replayed for months. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize. To absolutely nobody. The double champ does what he wants. With 2 belts and a global spotlight, McGregor held all the cards. Fighters called him out, promoters offered record paydays, and the UFC leaned into his star power to drive revenue. The business of fighting had a new center. These back-to-back championship wins didn't just rewrite the record books, they transformed McGregor from a hungry challenger into the most valuable asset in combat sports. The path was now open for a leap no UFC fighter had ever attempted, crossing over into boxing's biggest stage. August 26, 2017. The T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas became the epicenter of a financial spectacle that boxing and mixed martial arts had never seen. Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor stepped into the ring, but behind the punches, a new kind of business was unfolding. The Nevada State Athletic Commission recorded a live gate of $55.4 million, second only to Mayweather's own fight with Pacquiao. Every one of the 17,412 tickets sold, some for as much as $10,000 apiece, fueled a payday that dwarfed anything in UFC history. But the real engine was the pay-per-view. Showtime's model put the fight in living rooms across the United States and beyond. In North America alone, 4.3 million homes bought the event at $69.99 or $79.99 for the high-definition feed. That single night's broadcast generated over $320 million in United States pay-per-view revenue. Internationally, broadcast rights and foreign pay-per-view sales added another $150 million, as fans from Europe to Latin America tuned in to watch a UFC champion trade blows with boxing's unbeaten king. The fighters' contracts reflected the stakes. Mayweather's guaranteed purse reached $100 million, but McGregor, negotiating as the outsider, still secured a $30 million guarantee. More important was his cut of the pay-per-view. Industry insiders put McGregor's share near 20% of net pay-per-view revenue, which combined with his base brought his total earnings to nearly $100 million. Sponsorship and merchandise deals, from robe patches to custom apparel, added tens of millions more to the pot. Altogether, the event's total revenue approached $600 million, a figure confirmed by Showtime, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and multiple industry analysts. For McGregor, this was not just a record payday. The cash and global attention created leverage that extended far beyond the ring. Months later, that capital would seed a new brand and a business empire, proving that the right fight could rewrite the rules of athlete earnings forever. Proper Number 12 began as an idea in the months after the Mayweather fight, when Conor McGregor found himself with the kind of capital and global reach that few athletes ever achieve. In 2018, he launched the Irish whiskey brand alongside Dee Devlin and veteran spirits executive Ken Austin. The initial rollout was rapid. Limited edition bottles sold out within days in Dublin, and a partnership with Proximo Spirits soon brought Proper Number 12 to shelves in the United States and the United Kingdom. By the end of 2019, the whiskey was available in more than 150 retail outlets, and export volumes had reached 120,000 cases across Europe and North America. McGregor's relentless self-promotion played a central role. Every fight week, press conference, and social media post doubled as an ad for the whiskey. Sales numbers reflected the hype. By 2020, Proper Number 12 had shipped 250,000 cases worldwide, making it the fastest-growing Irish whiskey brand by case volume, according to IWSR data. The brand's presence expanded into thousands of U.S. liquor stores, with $80 million in North American revenue reported for 2020 alone. The real windfall came in April 2021, when Proximo Spirits acquired a majority stake in the company. The deal delivered $300 million up front, with the potential for another $300 million in performance-based earnouts, depending on future sales milestones. The transaction valued proper number 12 at roughly $1.2 billion. McGregor, Devlin, and Austin retained a minority stake and a royalty on future net revenue, ensuring the brand's continued connection to its founder. What started as a fighter's side project became a global asset, and McGregor's gamble paid off again. This time, not with punches, but with a signature on a contract. Today, McGregor's empire proves that spectacle and self-belief can shift the boundaries of sport and business. No titles required. As athletes increasingly cross from the cage to the boardroom, the line between fighter and entrepreneur blurs. The real fight now is for legacy, not just victory. Where ambition meets opportunity, the next empire is already taking shape. Share your perspective in the comments below.